we go. This is the 10 o'clock advisory. So ladies, you were asking me. All right, so this is the first time I'm seeing it, so kind of bear with me as we look through the numbers. Winds remain the same at 75 miles an hour. Forward motion has not changed. Pressure came down slightly or it stayed the same. I can't remember the pressure at the 7 o'clock advisory, but if it did come down, it only came down by maybe 1 millibar, and it certainly doesn't look any better organized. So as I said, no big surprise. It still has winds of 75 miles an hour. So it's still a Category 1. What we had been watching is that kind of clear circulation and kind of what looks to be almost a broad eye structure, not nearly as impressive as it was earlier. So we'll see if it's able to maintain any strength. At least as of the 7 o'clock advisory, strengthening has not increased. It's not intensifying. It's kind of holding steady. So let's take a look at the new cone. Nothing really has changed at all. Landfall still looks to be about the same, kind of late afternoon, evening, and still, I don't want to say only, still as a Category 1. So we are not expecting any real rapid intensification. That looks to be almost off the table, though the Hurricane Center is still maintaining it will get some strength. But note, as it heads towards 7 a.m. tomorrow, so through the overnight and for our 7 o'clock advisory, Hurricane Center thinks at some point during the night and early tomorrow, it will gain some strength and have winds of 90 miles an hour. After that happens, it kind of holds the storm steady right up to the point of landfall. Now, in between, maybe there is some slight strengthening, but as it gets closer to the coastline, that window of strengthening quickly closes and it'll be moving into a very hostile environment right along the shoreline. So at the moment, looks like there were no major changes to the forecasted track. So this is just coming in now, and y'all were asking if they might possibly do this early, and sure enough they did. I guess they had enough information put into the models from the hurricane hunters. The models were already kind of sending out the data. We already had that data in, and so now we do have the 10 o'clock advisory. No major changes. Doesn't look like any real shift in the forecasted cone. Again, we find New Orleans on the kind of extreme eastern part of the cone itself, so it doesn't really look like it has shifted at all. I've been kind of using Marsh Island as my gauge here to see if we do see any shifts. Almost looks like maybe a little west, maybe, but it's hard to say. And again, as Jamie Rome with the Hurricane Center was even telling us, don't focus solely on that center line. I like to focus on the center line, one, because it gives us an idea of what the Hurricane Center is thinking, and two, you want to avoid the center of the storm. Obviously, what the Hurricane Center is trying to get across is the fact that impact's going to be felt over a large area. They just want the population aware of the threats of a storm. I like to, though, talk about the more extreme threats are going to be right near the center of the storm. And as a matter of fact, you kind of look at what the models had done, and this is obviously within the new cone. Still looks like the models might have shifted a little bit east, and then the Hurricane Center, excuse me, really didn't change their thinking. So, you know, sometimes there are these little jogs with the models one way or the other. But I even said, with the fact that from the 4 o'clock forecasted cone, it looked like the storm since 4 p.m. has basically been following along with exactly what the Hurricane Center was saying. It may not be buying into this little model shift, if this is even a shift at all. And so I think the Hurricane Center was like, we're going to hold off. We'll see what happens through the overnight with the center of the storm, see if it does anything different. Then maybe we'll make some adjustments. But as of right now, you're getting into a window where the margin of error is tightening up. So we're starting to get a much better picture of precisely where it should be making landfall. And that's basically what they were saying as of the 4 o'clock advisory. So if you are just joining us now, we did get in the 10 o'clock advisory. No increase in strength. There might have been, and Alexa, I don't know if you can look back at the 7 o'clock to see if the pressure, or what the pressure was. It's at 980 right now. Just curious if it dropped at all, because I cannot remember for the life of me if it was at 980 as of the 7 o'clock advisory.
It was at 982.
Okay, so it did come down by 2 millibars. So the pressure continues to lower, but as far as finding any stronger winds, it looks like that has kind of been capped off for now. We'll see again what happens during the overnight. Thus far, even as the pressure had been steadily dropping yesterday and today, it was still at a tropical storm. Then at 7 o'clock became a hurricane, saw the pressure lower again, but the winds have kind of maxed out. So we will see. The wind speed has been not really doing much of anything going back to yesterday. So we'll see if it's able to get up to 90 mile per hour. We do have some 90 mile an hour wind gusts, but as we had mentioned, showing you that buoy that is just east of the storm itself, well, actually now just to the southeast of the storm itself, you're not seeing winds gusting up to 90 miles an hour. They're gusting at that buoy up to only 54 miles an hour and sustained just above a tropical storm. So this wind field remains fairly small. Again, we'll see if it's able to kind of increase, and we're expecting it to kind of increase in size as it does approach the coast. But there is not a whole lot more time before the center of that storm is moving toward Morgan City and the south central Louisiana coastline. There is not a great deal more time for this to continue to intensify. And thus far, we have seen it not really intensifying at all, let alone quickly, and certainly not rapidly. That doesn't look to be the case with this at all, as conditions will become more and more hostile for further organization, for further development, for further strengthening. One thing we'll be watching, though, is kind of that center of the storm through the late night hours, and we'll be here during the overnight, kind of changing hands with the morning crew during the after midnight hour, and we'll be watching kind of the structure of the storm, see what it does through the night. And then I would say at some point, probably before or around the noon hour, as it's nearing the coast, the structure may start to then deteriorate as it moves into the more hostile environment. So once again, the 10 o'clock advisory is in. Winds of 75 miles an hour. Still that forward speed at 10 miles an hour. Hopefully we'll start to see that pick up during the overnight period. And then pressure currently holding at fallen to 980. As far as the forecast track has come in, there really is no change in thinking. It does look like it'll be sometime midday, afternoon, late or afternoon, early evening on Wednesday. Again, folks have been saying, well, that time keeps changing. It's gone from 1 to 7. It always looked to be somewhere in that kind of mid-afternoon, early evening time frame, and that really has not changed. Quickly moving up toward the north. So as we get further into our late Wednesday night, overnight, then early Thursday morning, by 7 a.m., as folks are going to bed Wednesday and waking up Thursday, the center of the storm is now tropical storm and is already almost up toward Jackson, Mississippi. And that was one thing Jamie Rome was pointing out, all those inland warnings. It just tries to give you a better idea of how far north those tropical storm force, hurricane force winds can make it. Prior, all other seasons, they really only focus on coastal areas with regard to tropical storm force winds, hurricane winds. Now they're trying to emphasize the inland dangers from those winds, as well as all of the other impacts that can follow with these landfalling storms. A lot of times you get far more significant flooding and deaths from water and flooding inland than you ever do right along the coastline with the storm making landfall. Sometimes they're able to interact with some mid-latitude systems and you really get some big rainfall events. That tends to be what happens, and one of the reasons why Hurricane Center is really trying to work at emphasizing the dangers with these storms as they move farther inland. But for us, once we get toward Thursday morning, we are then kind of again counterclockwise. We're on the back side, and drier air will continue to rotate around, really helping us out in terms of the rainfall starting to immediately abate. So again, nothing has changed. We're looking at from tomorrow midday through the night, the strong winds. At times, we could see hurricane even force wind gusts, not sustained, but wind gusts in the metro area. Again, we'll kind of watch that trend. Secure loose items. Again, you'd have a little bit of time later tonight or through the night tonight and into early tomorrow. Then as we head into tomorrow through the day, the storm surge, at least what we have going for us is by the afternoon, we're expecting most of our storm surge heights to be reached. We should be at low tide. So we'll have kind of the storm surge coming in, but at least the tide coming out. They're not going to counteract each other, but it does help us out with maybe a foot or two. I'm not sure what the tide range is, but it does help us out a little bit. So what you need to do is get to higher ground. And throughout the day and night tomorrow, probably around midday, but likely starting even in the morning, the rainfall rolling in as the storm, we kind of get those waves of the bands pushing through. We will start to see more of the 4 to 6 possible isolated higher amounts. Just make certain you don't drive through flooded waters or flooded roadways. That is why we've been saying once you get to mid midday tomorrow. Just stay indoors, hang out until Thursday morning when we kind of get the all clear that certain areas are able to be accessed. And again, I don't think that's going to be widespread issues with areas closed, but certainly what we know, more of our vulnerable areas down near the coast. Metro area, North Shore, I think we're going to be just fine. Much of the river parishes as well, I think we're going to be just fine. Those winds start picking up later in the midday and afternoon and peaking probably kind of late afternoon, evening as the storm is pushing northward. Obviously, your strongest winds are going to be right near the center, but we could see winds sustained over 50 miles an hour. That's going to do some damage, and then winds gusting up 70 plus miles an hour in the city, certainly very possible. Late in the night, still breezy, but winds diminishing and immediately dropping below the criteria for power companies, Entergy in particular, to start going out and making those needed repairs, which we know we'll probably see. So this is the QPF forecast, the quantitative precipitation forecast, and we're looking at rainfall totals, again, kind of in a band from where about we're expecting Francine to make inland, to make landfall, and then continue inland throughout the better part of the day tomorrow, and then again quickly moving out. Storm surge potential, we've been highlighting these risk areas generally from Terrebonne Bay toward Vermilion Bay, and then as far as the highest totals we're anticipating 3 to 5 feet in the lake and along our coastlines, 4 to 7, well, from the mouth of the river east toward the Chandeleur Sound and Mississippi Sound, and then for Barataria Bay 4 to 7, Terrebonne and out toward Vermilion looking at about 5 to 10.